Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2025 Baycurrent Data Dive Show. We have quite a bit to get into, or at least as much as we can get into for the Baycurrent this evening. We're going to start with the forecast over in Yokohama, Japan. It is a wild one. I've also, as promised from last night, gathered a lot more course information regarding Yokohama Country Club and the tournament course for this week. And then even though we don't have any data from the course, having not been played on the PGA Tour before, we'll take a look at some of the things that I think are going to play well this week around Yokohama Country Club. Go into Fantasy National, see the players who have been best at those particular skill sets. So we have a little bit to cover. Let's not waste any time. It might be a little bit of a shorter show like last night's was, but let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. Go check out FantasyNational.com. Best golf analytics tool out there for your money. You won't regret it. Go check out FantasyNational.com. In the description of the video, there are links to all the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where normally I post research every Monday regarding some course information, patterns of previous winners, things of that nature. Obviously can't do that for the Baycurrent since this is a brand new course being seen on the PGA Tour. But normally, if you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, give me a follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and top player usage in the DFS contest I play. That comes out every Wednesday after the DFS Tactics show. So that'll be out later this week. If you want to see the players I've wagered my money on, the players I'm using most often in my lineups, go give me a follow over at X. Lastly, for social media, Gabe's handle's in the description. He writes a great article called The Fringe. Can't recommend it enough. He's doing a lot of enhancements during the fall in preparation for 2026. So a lot of exciting things to come. I've really enjoyed working with Gabe. So make sure you are subscribed to that article and following him over on social media. Show him some support. Lastly, for this intro, by and large, we are live. Chat's open. Want to hear from you all. Do you have any information on the Yokohama Country Club? What do you think of the Baycurrent Classic of the field this week? Some fairly big names over there. So what do you think of the tournament? What do you think of the pricing, of the odds? Anything and everything Baycurrent. Put your thoughts and opinions in the chat. And if you're not able to catch a show live, put your thoughts and opinions into the comments. I'll always get to those as well. So let's get into it. Let's dig into the weeds of the data of what we can for the 2025 Baycurrent Classic. And as we always do on a Monday evening, we're going to take a look at the extended forecast for Yokohama, Japan and Yokohama Country Club. They are going to get bombarded with rain to begin tournament week. You see winds up near 30 miles an hour in terms of sustained winds. Quite a bit of rain on Thursday. This rain has slowly decreased during the day today. At one point, they were projecting about 0.2 of an inch of rain around, I think it was either noon or 3 p.m. That is, as you can see, has dropped. But I would not be surprised to see either ball in hand on Thursday or maybe even a complete washout, considering this forecast. I mean, this is just really, really, really ugly for Thursday. Friday, especially morning, lots of wind still in the forecast. Saturday looks pretty good. Maybe a stray shower, but very calm winds, high of low 70s, and then warming back up on Sunday to a high of 80, but with some gusty winds. And you can see that the wind does look like it's going to change direction from Friday into the weekend. So just something to note as we keep our eye on the forecast throughout this week. And for the Data Dive show, which I'll have to explain more towards the end of the show, but for the Data Dive show, we always start our Data Dive show with an updated look at the forecast. We actually go into the super forecast. I'm not sure we're going to be able to do that since this is not an American site. or excuse me, an American information that we're gathering. We're obviously over in Japan, so we'll have to do the best we can. But we'll update that, at the beginning of the DFS Tactics show. Normally, DFS Tactics show is Wednesday. It might be tomorrow. I got to figure out exactly when the start of the Baycurrent Classic is happening, and if I have time to do the DFS Tactics show at my normal scheduled time on Wednesday. If not, it'll be tomorrow. But anyway, there's a look at the forecast. We're going to be looking at a whole lot of wind, especially the first day and a half or so, and maybe even some on Sunday. It doesn't look promising if they are trying to, maybe push the tournament back. Monday and Tuesday kind of look like a wash. Wednesday looks horrible. So there isn't a lot of time. There isn't a large window here to get this tournament in. So it'll be interesting to see what the tournament organizers do, especially with this forecast for Thursday. So I'll leave that up. And I have the scorecard from what we looked at last night. I'll also have that up. Let's take a quick look at just one quick metric here based on that forecast. We'll take a look at moderate and windy conditions, considering just how horrible that forecast looks, just to be blunt and honest. So I will go back to the beginning of 2024 just to make sure we have enough rounds to make it statistically significant. There has been no new field changes for the Baycurrent Classic, so Tony Finau is our only withdrawal as of now. That's why he is starred. Sam Ryder has taken his place, and then every other player that is starred here is an alternate for the moment. So just for your information as a viewer, your top performers in the past year and 9 months, almost 2 years, in moderate and windy conditions in the field for the Baycurrent Classic: Xander, Colin Morikawa, Sungjae, Hideki, Siwoo, Alex Smalley, Alex Noren, Adam Scott, Ryan Gerard, and Mac Meisner. Again, skipping Tony Finau, he has withdrawn. If we bring this into 2025 only, surprisingly, there's enough rounds here. So I might actually just take a look at this. Some players will have, low to mid-teens. And, of course, the Japanese tour players won't have any data. But I did not realize there was this much data in moderate and windy conditions just for 2025. So if you only are concerned with recent form in windy conditions, in moderate and windy conditions, your top performers in 2025 have been Hideki, Alex Smalley, Sungjae, Lee Hodges, Danny Walker, Ryan Gerard, Patrick Rogers, Nikolai Højgaard, Patrick Fishburne, Siwoo, Joel Damon, and Kevin Roy are your top 12 just due to ties. So quite a bit of a different list here. Morikawa drops from, I believe it was second, down to 15th. Xander, who was number one, obviously did not have a very good year this year. Coming off the injury, was actually negative in terms of performance in the wind in 2025. So, but there's a look at your top wind performers, in the immediacy in 2025 and going back to 2024. But the one thing that I want to make sure I cover before we get too far into the show this evening, I will show you that, at least as of a couple hours ago, they still did not have the GCSAA tournament fact sheet for the Baycurrent. But what I have found is from somebody else in the industry, another pundit, if you will, somebody that I respect highly, and I really would recommend that you go check out his stuff. His name is Andy Lack. You can find him over on Twitter. This is where this is from. I'm giving all the credit to Andy Lack here, that he posted this earlier today over on his Twitter page. So I don't want you to get it mixed up that I found this by myself or anything to that effect. But what we have here for Yokohama Country Club is a composite course. A composite course meaning that the routing is actually two different courses put together for a tournament or a championship style course. You actually see this at the Pro Core a little bit. Silverado has a north and a south course. Now, we always say Silverado North. In fact, if I bring up the course breakdown here and go to Silverado, you'll always see Silverado North. Pass it up. Silverado Resort and Spa North. There is technically a south course at Silverado Resort, but the tournament is played 17 holes on the north course and 1 hole on the south. That's why they keep it at the north, or say Silverado North, because it only incorporates 1 hole from the south course. Much the same here at Yokohama Country Club. There are 2 courses, east and west. You will most often see Yokohama Country Club West as the course this week. 16 of the 18 holes being played for the tournament are on the west course. It's also the one that has gotten the most recent renovation. You can see that here. But they did renovate 2 holes on the south course. On the east course at Yokohama Country Club that will also be a part of tournament play. So this is technically a composite course at Yokohama Country Club. The golf course was redesigned by Core and Crenshaw in 2015. It has held a couple of Japan Opens. It has hosted 1 or 2 international events. The Nations Cup, maybe, if that sounds right. I know it's a tournament that's not played anymore, but I believe this course has held a couple of somewhat prestigious international events. Competitive enhancements to the golf course prior to this year's event. Fairway adjustments, a little bit of rough, but there isn't a whole lot of rough on the course. It's not kept very high either at 3 inches. New fairway bunkers, new tees, significant tree removal, things of that nature. So here are the tournament facts, for lack of better terms, since we don't have a tournament fact sheet. 78 players in the field this week. A no-cut event, just like we had with the Zozo. This is a no-cut event. This is a par 71, measuring 7,315 yards, like we saw last night, going through Pro Visualizer and the official scorecard, things of that nature. This scorecard is correct. We have a very, very unique back 9 in the sense that we don't have any par 5s on the back 9, only 1 par 3 on the back 9, loaded with these, long mid-length to long par 4s on the back. The greens is 007 bent. Now, I don't know if this is the specific same type as at Colonial, but Colonial, when it was renovated, also received 007 bent. But the Colonial also had an additional substrand, if you will, I guess, in the sense that it was 007 XL. Again, I'm not an agronomist. I cannot tell you if that is the same type as what is here at the Yokohama Country Club, or if it's slightly different. I simply don't know. Just showing you that this specific 007 at Colonial is seen on the PGA Tour. But we'll just take a look at bent tonight in terms of putting. But we are on bent greens, and again, this is thanks to Andy Lack. The figure that he gave in terms of green size was roughly 6,500 square feet. So these greens do appear to be larger than the average PGA Tour size green. We kind of saw that on Pro Visualizer last night. A lot of those greens seemed to be rather large. So 6,500 square feet makes a whole lot of sense. But we are on bent grass greens. They are probably going to be kept pretty darn slow, especially with the amount of wind that is in the forecast. The target speed being 11 to 11.5 feet on the stimp, which would be pretty darn slow by American standards. A lot of courses in America, especially PGA tournament courses, are 12 to maybe even 13. I think Sanderson Farms gets up to about 13 in terms of on the stimp. So these are going to be, average to maybe even slow. They are Zoysia fairways and Zoysia rough. So I've talked about, Zoysia a few times, how it is kind of a stickier grass, can be different to play out of, not necessarily difficult, but different. And it can make around the green, a little bit more challenging sometimes. But I definitely wanted to share this info with you all, since I had found this earlier today. Again, all the credit for all of this information. This was posted by Andy Lack over on Twitter. You can go give him a follow. It is well worth your while. He has a lot of great stuff that he talks about. Respect his opinion a lot. Can't say enough about that. So I wanted to make sure I give him full credit for all of this as he posted this earlier. But that is what we have as of right now in terms of a tournament fact sheet moving forward this evening for the Baycurrent Classic. So I'll keep that up in case there are more questions as well. But now we'll go into Fantasy National. No course info or course history. We're not going to be able to dig into prior years and figure out whether off the tee or approach is more important, how important distance versus fairways are. We're not going to be able to do any of that. We can make some assumptions based on the scorecard here, knowing that we are roughly dealing with 6,500 square foot greens. I'm starting to think maybe some proximity might matter, because greens are probably going to be a little bit easier to hit due to the size of these greens. So maybe some irons, obviously. So we'll just go through Fantasy National here. Again, it's going to be a shorter show, but do what we can. In the field this week at the Baycurrent, your top off-the-tee players. Again, off-the-tee generally favors length over accuracy, but your top total off-the-tee players in the past 36 rounds, so at least semi-recently, in the field this week: Chris Goddard, Kevin Yu, Aldrich Pokegeiter, Rico Hoey, Michael Thorbjornsen, Kurt Kitayama, Alex Smalley, Rasmus Højgaard, Adam Scott, and Colin Morikawa. Again, skipping Jesper Svensson, he is an alternate at the moment. This is incorporating the Sanderson Farms. Sanderson Farms was loaded into Fantasy National earlier today. So there's your top off-the-tee players. Going to give this, a decent amount of weight, I think, in the mixed condition model. Your top iron players in the field for the Baycurrent Classic. Again, last 36 rounds: Kurt Kitayama, Hideki, Colin Morikawa, Sammy Valimaki, Lee Hodges, Emiliano Grillo, Rico Hoey, Ryan Gerard, Austin Eckroat, and Nikolai Højgaard. Again, skipping Victor Puri. He is an alternate. So you see Kitayama here, 7th and 1st, the top ball striker in the past 36 rounds. So he's going to rise pretty precipitously or catapult, I should say, because precipitously is normally saved for dropping. He's going to rise quite a bit in the mixed condition model, considering I generally focus on ball striking. Morikawa, 11th and 3rd. Rico Hoey, 5th and 7th. Thorbjornsen, 6th and 12th. Things of that, or these players are going to rise quite a bit, considering I generally lean ball striking. I do think around the green is going to play a little bit more of a factor than I initially thought. We went through Pro Visualizer last night, saw that there wasn't a whole lot of room around the greens, so players are going to have, if they do happen to miss the green, are going to have to be pretty darn tidy around the green, because there's just not a whole lot of room around these greens. And again, Andy Lack made a pretty darn compelling point today that with there not being a lot of rough around the greens here, that is a signature staple of Core and Crenshaw designs, that there's not a whole lot of rough around greens, especially that chipping, pitching around the green from tight lies can make around the green play a little bit more difficult. Players are going to have to be, much better with their hands, chipping out of tight lies and stuff. So I do think around the green is going to play more of a factor than I initially thought. While I'm thinking about it, I'll go back to the GCSAA just one more time. The course that is really coming to mind right now, in terms of Ben Core and Crenshaw designs, Bill Core and Ben Crenshaw, is Kapalua. Kapalua is a Core and Crenshaw design, definitely a different style of course here at Kapalua than what we have at Yokohama. I mean, we have 56-yard wide fairways, 58-yard wide average width fairways at Kapalua, humongous greens. But the commonality here is that there's not a whole lot of rough around Kapalua. You see that it's really green and some fairway cut, and then you kind of get into hazards, and that seems to be what it's like around Yokohama. So because of that, we'll take a look at some around the green play. Your top around the green players in the field this week for the Baycurrent Classic: Sung Jae, Matt Wallace, Bo Hostler, Andrew Putnam, Tom Kim, Hideki, Davis Riley, Takumi Kanaya, Alex Noren, and Sam Stevens are your top 10 around the green players in the field this week at the Baycurrent. And then the last thing we'll take a look at in terms of strokes gained, we'll use all four strokes gained categories. Because this is a new course, I am probably going to have all four major strokes gained categories in my mixed condition model. But we'll take a look at some bent putting. We'll take a look at this in a couple of different ways. I am going to hold off on the speed filter. My guess would be Velcro or average, but we simply don't know since this has never been played. So going back to the beginning of last year, your top putters on bent greens in the field this week: Takumi Kanaya, Alex Noren, Vincent Whaley, Eric Cole, Christian Bezuidenhout, Davis Riley, Kevin Roy, William Mao, Sam Stevens, and Max Grazerman. Again, skipping Justin Lauer, he's an alternate as of right now. The other way we're going to look at some putting, we're going to look at some spike putting. And again, I default to two per round. How often do these players spike on bent greens? You might disagree with this figure. I just kind of default to 2 as my spike number, if you will. So these players spike most often on bent greens. You see Kaito Nakajima 50%. Understand that it's only 2 rounds, so it's only 1 round that he spiked. And in fact, at the Scottish last year, he ended up being negative in putting, because for as much as he spiked in round 2, he was that bad in round 1. So players who have at least a modicum of rounds to look at. Interesting to note, Nico Echeverria here, never, 0%, has never spiked on bent greens. If we take a look at his player page, you see bent and POA, both he has struggled on, which is kind of interesting considering he is technically the defending champion of this tournament, but never spiked on on bent. Takumi Kanaya looks like 3 for 10, probably 4 rounds that didn't get counted. Yep, the Zozo. So 3 out of the 10 rounds, and look, he's actually been very positive in terms of bent putting. Just interesting to note. Seabez has spiked quite a bit on bent grass greens. Hideki, Sam Ryder, Garrick Higo, more than 20%. Springer, Whaley, Davis Riley, Sam Stevens, Alex Noren. All of these players have spiked at least 1 in 5 rounds. So not too bad. So there's an interesting look at a different way to think about putting here at Yokohama this week for the Baycurrent. Moving to fairways and greens, I'm still a little bit torn. Considering how awful this forecast is, don't know how low the scores are going to go this week. Now, if they have ball in hand, that's obviously going to make it a whole lot easier. I don't know if they're going to have ball in hand for any of the tournament. So I'm not confident in using the easy relative to par filter is what I'm getting at. I don't think it's going to be difficult. This course doesn't seem like it would strike a lot of fear into professionals' hearts. Could be wrong with that, but with the, a few big names here, Xander, Hideki, Colin Morikawa, Wyndham Clark, there's a few big names here. I do expect some amount of birdies to be made. So anyway, don't feel great about a filter here. We'll just take a look at a couple of big picture views, I guess. Your top distance players in the field this week at the Baycurrent. Driving distance, that is, Aldrich Potgeider, Chris Goddard, Kurt Kitayama, Xander, Michael Thorbjornsen, Rasmus Højgaard, Nikolai Højgaard, Minwoo Lee, Isaiah Salinda, and Matty Schmid. The only 2 of that top 10 that are also decent in fairways would be Thorbjornsen and Salinda. But Thorbjornsen's been, pretty darn elite in terms of driving in this field. 6th in distance, top 20 in terms of fairways. If you want to target or look at the plotters, the guys that are going to hit their fairways, Takumi Kanaya, Griot, Putnam, Morikawa, Siwoo, Joel Damon, Seabez, Rico Hoey, Brian Campbell, and Sungjae. Rico Hoey being the only one positive in distance, and it's not by much. Griot slightly negative, and then everyone else is pretty darn low in terms of the distance. Good drives gained, Siwoo, Griot, Kanaya, Morikawa, Seabez, Damon, Putnam, Rico Hoey, Stevens, and Bud Cauley. You see most of this top 10 is shared with the fairways. I don't know if sand saves are going to be that big of a deal. I don't think the sand is too terribly difficult to play out of, from what I've gathered. So, interesting. I don't have a lot to still think about in terms of what I want to focus on this page view. We'll move to scoring. We'll look at we'll look at opportunities. Not as keen on this one, considering how big these greens are. Damon, Morikawa, Keith Mitchell, Lee Hodges, Kitayama, Bud Cauley, Thor Bjornsson, Hoey, Griot, Brian Campbell. Do think we probably need to look at some birdies or better. There are 2 par 5s, and they're short par 5s, so I can imagine some eagles. Drivable par 4 might yield, an eagle or 2 on a day. So I do think there will be an amount of eagles made. Your top birdies or better gained players in the field this week: Keith Mitchell, Nikolai Højgaard, Matty Schmid, Aldrich Potgeider, Hayden Springer, Xander, Kevin Yu, Danny Walker, Max Grazerman, Michael Thorbjornsen. Conversely, if you're wanting to focus on the bogey avoiders, Andrew Putnam, Siwoo, Xander, Griot, Matt Wallace, Ryo Itsatsune, Smalley, Bud Cauley, Hideki, Vincent Whaley are your top 10 bogey avoiders. Now to kind of basically, other than the specific yardage of par 4s, 3s, 4s, and 5s, kind of the crux of what we can look at other than strokes gained as well, proximity. I'm going to start with total procs. These greens are large. Again, getting this from Andy Lack, it seems like the distribution of approach shots, I'll bring this up very quickly, the distribution of approach shots at Yokohama Country Club, this was taken from Pro Visualizer, but he says that it's pretty much tour average across all ranges. I'll take his word for it. He is very, very in touch with courses and data like that. So I'll defer to him on that. He says that it is, again, the proximity buckets are tour average basically across the board. With these being larger than average tour size greens, I can see myself wanting to put a little bit of focus into total procs. So there's total procs players: Damon, Morikawa, Hideki, Campbell, Nico Echeverria, Carl Phillips, Chris Ventura, Kurt Kitayama, Gary Woodland, Bud Cauley. I still think the 200 plus is going to carry quite a bit of weight. We do have the very long par 3 that's going to demand obviously a 200 yard approach from the tee box. 510 par 4 could easily demand a 200 plus. 508 par 4 going to demand a 200 plus. The 2 par 5s I see getting attacked in 2, obviously a 200 yard approach. You could argue the 175 to 200 as well a little bit. So if we take a look at these 2 ranges, somebody like Joel Damon stands out 4th and 7th. Hideki stands out 2nd and 2nd. Kurt Kitayama 8th and 18th. Trying to find some others here. Thor Bjornsson 3rd and 20th. Makes some sense. Matty Schmid 5th and 2nd. Outstanding in terms of long iron proficiency. Nikolai Højgaard 12th and 21st. Kevin Yu 19th and 9th. Makes a lot of sense there. Some others, maybe not too much down here. Patrick Rogers maybe to a little bit lesser of an extent. 24th and 12th. There's a few of the players in terms of proximity that make a lot of sense. Again, I'm probably going to have some total procs in the mixed condition model. Still kind of debating with myself whether I want to focus on the long irons as well, like 5% maybe in each of these. Not sure. We'll move to par 4s. I really don't think there's much with par 3s. Only because we have the 168, 182. 182 is pretty well locked into that 175 to 200 range. 237 is clearly the 225 plus. 168 might come up to the 175 to 200. That's hard to say. but what I'm getting at is that they are pretty evenly spread out. I don't know how much par 3s are going to matter. And I think par 4s are going to have an overwhelming amount of importance, considering 8 of the 9 holes on the back 9 are par 4s. So your top par 4 performers past 36 rounds: Kevin Roy, Patrick Fishburne, Chris Goddard, Seabez, Christian Bezuidenhout, Matt Wallace, Mark Hubbard, Matt McCarty, Putnam, Hideki, Sami Valimaki. Most of them falling between 400 and 450. 1, 2, 3, 4, 458 could easily come down under 450. 5 of them. 5 of them in this 400 to 450 range. Fishburne, Matt Wallace, Kevin Roy, Seabez, Rasmus Højgaard, Davis Riley, Mark Hubbard, Wyndham Clark, Sami Valimaki, Keith Mitchell. If we look at all rounds, maybe I should look at all rounds. Let's see how that changes. Yeah, that changes quite a bit. All right, so I'm gonna change this to all rounds because not every course has a 400 to 450 par 4. Most of them do, but sometimes there might only be one per course. So for all of 2025, your top performers at this range of par 4: Michael Kim, Matt Wallace, Gary Woodland, Chris Goddard, Fishburne, Rasmus Højgaard, Mark Hubbard, Hideki, Davis Riley, Kevin Roy, Keith Mitchell. And then moving to par 5s, both of them fall in the 500 to 550. Lee Hodges, Kurt Kitayama, Xander, Sung Jae, Alex Smalley, Siwoo Kim, Taylor Moore, Billy Horschel, Bo Hostler, Hayden Springer. So that is essentially what I have for you all in terms of a data dive show. Again, a much shorter show this evening, but with this being a brand new course, we don't have any historical context to look into, at least from the PGA side of things. You can always take a look at some historical Japan Opens that have been played at the Yokohama Country Club. Maybe get a feel for the types of players that have been there or that have won there. Didn't do that. I'm just going to go kind of with my gut feeling on this. Be on the lookout over on social media tomorrow in case I need to move the DFS Tactics show up to tomorrow night. I need to double check and see when the tournament is actually going to start and see if I have enough time Wednesday night to do the DFS Tactics show. If I don't, I will definitely move it to tomorrow night. So there will be a DFS Tactics show this week. Just be on the lookout over on social media. I might have to move it to tomorrow. That's going to do it for a Data Dive show this evening. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, watching, listening, supporting the channel, liking the videos, commenting, and subscribing. I always appreciate it. I love what I do, taking a very in-depth look at golf statistics when we can, giving you a statistician and data analyst view of what he sees, trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process. Again, last reminder, I will be doing the DFS Tactics show hopefully on Wednesday, but be on the lookout over on social media. I might have to move it to tomorrow in case lineup lock for DFS would happen before DFS Tactics show at my normal time on Wednesday. So be on the lookout for that. Thanks again for all the support, for all the wagers you've made so far this week for the Baycurrent Classic, for all the wagers you're thinking about making this week for the Baycurrent Classic. And until I see you either tomorrow night or Wednesday night for the DFS Tactics show, may all your bets be profitable.